Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John. Welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
Did somebody just grab you onto the table? It's like the love.
Just a little positive.
And to avoid lazy negativity, we decided to make this episode a drinking game.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime you hear anything negative at all, you're going to hear this sound. That sound means we need to take a drink, and we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass, grab your 400mm lens, and let's get ourselves on some watch lists.
And maybe just swirl your brandy for an entire scene.
Too late. Should I get another one?
Ooh.
All right, gentlemen, we are talking today about Rear Window. Why are we talking about Rear Window? Because the random year generator pulled the year 1954. So we're going to give you some context of some other movies that were going on in the film year 1954, some other world events that were happening in 1954, and then our featured segment is going to be us talking about the film that we chose to discuss, which of course is Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. We're going to have some gripes and maybe a couple mini reviews for some new things that are out. And at the end of the episode, we'll tell you what we've been watching in an episode called, or in a series called What You've Been Watching. Give you our recommendations for the week. John, you want to shout our sponsors out before we get into our episode?
Yeah, sure. We have a couple sponsors. I think you've heard their names before. But just to remind you, Mr. Carlos Barroso, did he send you guys the beer, by the way?
Not yet.
Oh, I got to get it. Okay. I'll get
Mr.
it. I'll get it.
Carlos Barroso is the beer sponsor. You can find him at cbarroso.beer. Check the show notes for the spelling. He is on the Instagram making up some fun beer shenanigans, showing you how to make stuff, telling you how beer is made, some beer history, all the things you would imagine. He's basically a beer somm. I think he literally is whatever the beer version of that is now. I think he passed that like 2 years ago. Good for you, Carlos. We love you, buddy. And we also have an artist in residence who provides all the music on this episode and every single episode. The artist Dasein, Dasein. You can find their music available on all the usual music platforms. Go there, stream, enjoy.
All right. Guys, did anybody watch anything? Does anybody want to do any mini reviews to give the people some insight as to what's going on out there in the world? By the way, so many movies are dropping right now. It's getting wild.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
like,
It
is.
I have no idea. You guys could see, there's 20 different movies you could have seen this week.
Yeah, it's like we could promote shit now. No, sadly, I was working all week. I didn't get a chance to get to any of the things I wanted to see. So,
Me too, dude. Jeff, did you see? I didn't see anything this past week, but I've been texted by multiple people about the new Godzilla movie, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Same.
yeah.
Everybody keeps
Godzilla
talking
minus
about
one.
it.
Yeah. People are hailing it as the best film of the year.
I know everybody's. I'm just hearing a lot about that one, and of course I'm hearing a lot about Lanthimos's. What's the name of that one?
Poor Things. Yeah, that's definitely high on my list.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing a lot about the ones that we're supposed to be here. I've heard people say Maestro is fantastic. I don't know. I'm so excited. Best time of year. I'm excited to watch movies.
I saw one.
Which one?
Well, I actually started May, December, and I just like a friend asked to hang out, and I was like, okay, cool. So like I'm only 30 minutes into May, December, but I watched Saltburn.
Emerald Fennell's new movie.
Emerald Fennell's follow-up to
Promising
Young Woman, for which he won an Oscar for best
original.
I think it was a best original screenplay.
I think so too.
Aaron Sorkin was up there. That was the COVID. Everything got pushed back a couple weeks. We talked about that on the podcast here. So I went in knowing that a lot of people are like either loving it or hating it. There's definitely a lot of polarity with this movie. There's a lot of people that are angry about wishing it was a certain way or different. I knew that there's some shock value. Anybody who's been following this film, even, from afar, I feel like there's like little ins, like if you've seen the movie, you mentioned like, ooh, the bathtub, and a couple other things. It starts out hot. There's these huge sweeping sequences with classical music. But then all of a sudden, like the story itself is very grounded on Barry Keoghan's performance. And I think I had a comp, which I will feed into the minds of the listeners, if they will. It's not a spoiler, but I think like comps, because a lot of people are like, there's some Downton Abbey vibes, there's like Melancholia vibes, there's there's a lot of different kind of comps going on because he and Call Me by Your Name, of course, because Barry Keoghan's character goes to Jacob Elordi's like country estate because their family has titles, so it's basically like a Downton Abbey type house, and they have servants and class system, etc. But it's just like a couple people, and Barry Keoghan's clearly obsessed with Jacob Elordi's character. But there's sort of like this young adult, I should say, because they're in college at Oxford, psychosexual, classist, kind of like, there's all these kind of tugs going on. But Barry Keoghan's, like anything that's around him, whether it's him in the frame or even just kind of following him around on these sweeping wonders that they have, he is amazing. I think we have to say, like, we've always known he's great. Of course, all of us have known he's great, but he's not like, it's like, I hear Travis Kelce's name more than I hear Barry Keoghan's name. So don't pretend like he's an A-lister yet, even though like movie podcasts all know who he is. So it's like, I'm waiting for his star turn, because that was so good for me. The shock and awe, I understand not working for people. There's some very like disturbing things that apparently in theaters people are shouting about, but me watching it at home, it was just kind of like, you know? So like that it gets a little squeamish. And then they're clearly layering things on, you know, like he becomes, so the comp is talented Mr. Ripley. I feel like if you have that in the back of your head, that there's like some talented Mr. Ripley stuff going on, then it's like, oh, okay, cool. So I can sit back. So even though some things, I can understand why some people are like, that doesn't work. With whatever she's going for, or even if she's going for anything at all, is it just these amazingly extravagant characters like Rosamund Pike's character, and you know, is getting a lot of praise, rightfully so, for just how outlandish she is, but also so simple at the same time. So anyway, long story short is I really liked this movie, but it's definitely not.
Is it short?
It's not simple. It's not simple. It's not an easy watch per se.
Okay, so far you've referenced Downton Abbey, Melancholia, and Mr. Ripley.
And Call Me By Your Name.
So pretty much book your fucking therapy after this movie.
Yeah. Ding, 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 Dave. I think I did a pretty good mini review. Yeah. So,
you guys know which one I'm super excited about? That I've only heard a couple people talking about, but I'm obsessed with both these actors. I don't know the director, Andrew Haigh, very well. All of Us Strangers with Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal. You guys heard about this one?
Yeah.
I don't know a single thing about that.
I saw the trailer.
I hadn't either, and then I saw. It looks beautiful. I've heard amazing things about it. I think if you're really into just character acting pieces, you're gonna. I don't know. It just looks fucking gorgeous and simple, and I'm really excited to see it. This is the best time of year. I'm so excited to just fucking watch movies. And Crown Part 2 comes out in 16th, 6 days from now.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. There's so much. I definitely want to see Poor Things. And they just dropped the miniseries trailer for that Jason Isaacs thing about Cary Grant, and he's playing like older Cary Grant. It's like everything looks so fucking good that's coming out right now.
Whoa! Oh, that's good casting.
The trailer just came out. I know. I didn't recognize him. It's awesome.
That's good.
Poor Things is on my list, and then there's so many good things. I can't wait. Ferrari, I'm going to see soon.
Guys, I'm seeing Napoleon tomorrow night.
All right,
I'm doing it. It's finally happening. I'm excited. Anyway, I know that's a hot take, maybe. I think some people are still conflicted about it, but I'm excited to understand why people are conflicted about it.
Hell yeah! Years in the making. All right, Dave, you have any gripes? Have anything you want to get off your chest? Any news? Anything?
No, not this week. Nope, nothing new.
Huh. All right.
Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I think you've got a gripe.
All right, I have a gripe.
Here we go.
Set the 1 minute gripe timer. Okay, I don't know for sure. I want to say this for legal purposes. I don't know for sure. But I want to tease a conspiracy theory that I think I would love some sleuths to get into, okay? What the hell? I get a minute! I believe the satellite navigation apps, Waze and or Google Maps or GPS, I have a conspiracy theory that they are in cahoots with our cities and major cities to encourage drivers to go to the places where there are more tolls. I think they're trying to squeeze us. And this is my example. I had to be at my job at noon, and I need to drive from Manhattan to Long Island. So I get in the car, and it said it was going to be $11.20 worth of tolls, which is fine for me because I get them reimbursed. And it was going to be 55 minutes. 55 minutes, and I was going to get there at 11:45.
Well, the time's never right.
I of course have alerts only on because I can't fucking stand them shutting my music off and just fucking talking to me the whole time. So I went the way I usually went. I saved 5 minutes. It immediately recalibrated, gave me 5 minutes back, and it was cheaper. It was $6.95. So how is it that as soon as I made a wrong turn, they knew I was going on a faster route that was cheaper? How did that happen? I don't know, guys. I just think...
Did you go RFK? Is this RFK to BQE?
Well, so when you go... I didn't go RFK. Did I go RFK?
You went over your time.
I didn't go. No, I went up the West Side Highway, and then when you go by where the GWB is, you can either go just straight up to 95, or you go this other route, like sort of through the Bronx to Long Island. And that's the way that I usually go, as opposed to just following the traffic.
I mean, it adds 95. A fair bit to your drive time, but there's literally a function that says avoid tolls.
No, but I can't do that though, because then I'm gonna keep going with my fucking gripe. So the only free from Manhattan to get out of the city, there's one bridge that's free, and that is the 59th Street Bridge. And starting in 2 weeks, they're going to tax any single person entering the city south of, guess what, 60th Street. What's south of 60th Street? 59th Street. They're going to charge a $15 toll because they don't want any traffic in Midtown. Have you not heard about this?
Congestion
it's like blowing up around the city.
No.
The congestion tax. And everybody's like freaking out because it's $15. And it's almost like, okay, well, we can avoid Times Square. But anybody entering Manhattan under 59th Street, $15. So the bridge is going to go from free to $59 if you enter during
once again,
rush hour.
the mayor of New York City has basically fixed the problem by making it go somewhere else.
Isn't that crazy?
Do you guys know how they're going to actually charge people as just license plate pictures kind of thing? How is that possibly going to...
I actually have no idea.
Yeah, they're probably going to set up toll gates like normal.
Shit.
Yeah.
That really would have that really would have cracked the pace of Great Gatsby, wouldn't it? Coming across the bridge and just having to stop every time. That bridge is going to get backed up as a motherfucker.
I mean, everywhere is going to be backed up. People still are going to drive to work.
I do love the idea of no traffic in Midtown. That is a fucking beautiful
Isn't
notion.
That cool?
the idea of it just turning into a pedestrian, people walking around a lot. But
all I'm going to say is, if you're going on a Tinder date, you're going to have to take the subway home, because otherwise your Uber just got more expensive. Dave wanted to buzz me. He just looked down so bad. He was looking. He's like, no, I guess that's it.
He was thinking about it. No, he wanted to.
No, I will say it flex prices. So at night,
I can do it without looking down.
It's going to be... Wow. All right. So that's my gripe. That is my mini review. You guys ready to start our segment?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. 1954. Let's start with the film year, and then we'll get to some world events. Film year, 1954. So again, the numbers pre-1977. Yeah, there were a couple big things going on around 1975 to 1977.
I think a nuke just went off outside
really
John's windows.
I haven't heard it.
I'm so sensitive. It's just
it got tuned out on Zoom. I can't wait to hear it on the replay. So the numbers are all fucked. But what do you guys think was the highest grossing film that came out in 1954?
Oh, dude.
We went through the list last week of movies that came out. What do you think the highest grossing one was?
Waterfront?
It really speaks to... Yeah, guess, Dave.
I think it's Waterfront.
Did you guess? You think it's Waterfront?
Yeah.
I think it's White Christmas.
Dave. We've done this every single time. And when has a movie like On the Waterfront been the number one movie? Yeah, it was definitely White Christmas for
White
sure.
Christmas, but I was about to say it speaks to, because I could have seen like Seven Brides or so, musicals always do well, especially back then.
Sure.
But it speaks to 20,000 Leagues came out. There were some like worldwide distribution things because Godzilla also came. The first one came out that year, and obviously that ended up being like an enormously classic, like completely introduced a whole new genre of movies to the world kind of movie. But I bet it didn't get like great distribution over here in 1954.
They edited the film, dude. There's an American version and a Japanese version.
But I wonder when the 1950. I wonder when do you think the one that we're looking at on IMDb right now was the same year as the original Japanese version? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think
is this the American version that came out in 1954?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, either way, we got.
I believe so too.
And they didn't get this the Japanese version for like 20 years or something, I think.
Yeah, and even on the the website, the numbers that we used over the summer for our summer blockbuster face off, their numbers are different. Apparently, 66 million tickets were sold for White Christmas. But also, do you know what the number 6 movie of the year was in 1954? Well, I'll tell you, it was 1939's Gone with the Wind. So it's like, apparently,
oh my God.
But who knows? I feel like these numbers are just so unreliable. I mean, maybe 66 million people really did see White Christmas the year it came out, apparently 2 decades before the first ever blockbuster. Well, but yeah, whatever. I don't know the numbers. Also, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Demetrius and the Gladiators was really big this year.
Can you guys imagine? How cool would it be to like? Movies used to run sometimes for like years.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if we were like, do you guys want to go see Maverick again? We could like just go to the movie theater if we wanted to go see it again. It would still be there.
I feel like Alamo or something.
It's still on somewhere.
Some movie theaters like Alamo should just do that. Just be like, here's some fucking awesome movies. I'm just going to keep them running.
Well, Die Hard's back in cinemas right now.
Well, I mean, holidays, that's not
my favorite
sense.
Christmas movie.
Which is really funny because there's so many movies coming out right now. Why is Die Hard taking that screen? Okay, The Kane Mutiny also made a lot of money. The Glenn Miller Story was a Universal picture. The Country Girl which we'll talk about when it comes to the Oscars.
That, right?
That was a Paramount release. That was number 5 according to Wikipedia. The High and the Mighty and A Star Is Born. That is the OG Judy Garland. A Star Is Born. Seven Brides. John was in that top 10. Rear Window comes in at number 8. Magnificent Obsession and There's No Business Like Show Business came in at number 10. Other big movies that came out this year. You mentioned some of them. You got your Godzilla. You got your
Brigadoon.
You got your Brigadoon. You've got Three Coins in the Fountain, which won an Oscar for Best Song for Three Coins in the Fountain. Johnny Guitar, The Wild One with Brando, we were also going to talk about. Them, Dialem for Murder, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Barefoot Contessa, way before
Sabrina?
Ina Garden.
How did Sabrina do?
Sabrina was in there. I guess not in the top 10, but it did pretty well in the Oscars.
It's a good movie.
So really quick.
Dialem.
Dialem for Murder. Yeah, that also same year. And then we're going to talk about some awards here. You've got On the Waterfront won 8 Oscars, including Best Picture, Director. Brando won. Carl Madden won too. But yes, of course, we are going to be talking about the wonderful Grace Kelly in here, who very famously retired from acting a year after this movie so that she could be the Princess of Monaco at the age of 26. So here she is in this movie at 25. And there were no acting noms for this. Actually, very few noms. This wasn't even nominated for like sound. Production design. Nope. No nomination for it. For Rear Window. It got cinematography, it got art design, it got director. Didn't even get fucking editing. Right? Isn't that crazy? Anyway, and then it got an writing nomination. But yes, of course, Grace Kelly would win Best Actress for The Country Girl, which also came out this year and also won a bunch of Oscars. And anything else about this year? Let's see.
During her acceptance speech, Hitchcock walked up on stage and slapped her.
I don't remember the slap this year, Dave.
I wonder if Paramount... Do you think Paramount also released The Country Girl? Because I could see them thinking, we don't want to split our votes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It is Paramount.
They're like, this is
they would have thrown her. Well, they would have thrown her in supporting, but I feel like that was also a time where it was like beneath an actor to be in a supporting category unless it was deliberate, if that makes sense. So it's very possible they didn't want to consider her a supporting actress, even though they might have been pushing for the other actress in this.
These days it's like, do you want a statue or not? You're a supporting actor.
Well, I think this is important. So there were a couple other things going on in the world. This is actually when America first started giving our support to South Vietnam. That's right. 1954 was when Eisenhower decided, let's get into Vietnam. The first Burger King opened. Nasser seizes power in Egypt. The Church of Scientology is founded. That's fucked up.
NASA seized power in Egypt?
Nasser, not NASA, not our fucking space system. Ellis Island closes as a point of immigration. Brown v. Board of Education, stating that segregation of public schools is unconstitutional with a unanimous vote was this year. Senator Joseph McCartney is censured.
Two different things.
Kind of bringing an end to his witch hunt, even though he did a second round of interviews in 1954, so that's fucked up. The first ever coast-to-coast live television broadcast on NBC, the Tournament of the Roses. But here's what's important. Under God was added to the Pledge of Allegiance. No, I'm kidding. What's important is Swanson introduces the first ever TV dinner. No, that's not important either. This is what I was going to say. Communism still sucks, as you could tell from Vietnam and McCarthy stuff.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Swanson introduces the first TV dinner. And America's race to obesity began.
Yeah.
Well, The Country Girl was an Odets play.
The world over.
Well, the Country Girl was an Odets play, and Odets did go to the house. The Country Girl.
Cool.
And then he went to the House Un-Americans Committee, and he technically only gave names that had already been confirmed. But it was just like awkward, if that makes sense, because he still named names, even though he didn't add new names. So he had like a little bit of street cred, but he did name names. So anyway, it was just a very strange situation. So he actually had a co-writer, which was George Seaton on this, on The Country Girl. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird fucked up time where they're still dealing with people with like basically needing pen names or needing other people to help them finish their scripts because of communism. So I think that's important to note. 1954.
Damn. So House of Un-American Activities was really in the swing of things at this point. This is like in the height of it.
I think so there was a second wave. So this is where it was supposed to be ending, but then we go into Vietnam. So anyway, it's like, it wasn't ending, even though McCarthy, I think they're blaming McCartney, but still kind of keeping on his
McCarthy.
McCarthy.
Damn it, Paul.
I'll say McCarthy.
No, you said McCartney.
McCartney.
McCarthy.
He's just a boy. He didn't know what he was doing.
Yes. Live and let die.
Come on.
Okay. I'm ready to finally set up Rear Window and then kick it over to you, knuckleheads. John, you got a drink ticket up.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
I think you guys know the pitch. Alfred Hitchcock, written by John Michael Hayes and Cornell Woolrich. Could be Woolrich. The CHs are tricky. Starring James Stewart, Grace Kelly, Wendell Corey, Thelma Ritter, who was awesome, by the way, and Raymond Burr as Lars Thorwald. And here's the pitch, and then I'm going to send it over to you. What do you think? What do you feel in this rewatch of Rear Window, which is streaming on the Criterion channel, or you can rent that shit. A photographer in a wheelchair spies on his neighbors from his Greenwich Village courtyard apartment window and becomes convinced one of them has committed murder, despite the skepticism of his fashion model girlfriend. What you guys think? What you guys feel? It has a 100 Metascore.
So good.
100 Metascore.
Yeah, 100.
Damn.
God almighty. That's good. I think it's also rated the highest of all his movies. I think it's got a solid 8.5 user rating on IMDb. I think the others are 8.4, 3, and 2, like North by Northwest, Vertigo, like the other big Psycho, the big classics.
I feel like it was dragged down to 8.5 out of spite.
Yeah, some assholes, you know?
Yeah.
This is also remade into a movie with Christopher Reeves after his accident.
Yeah. There's a couple. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dave, what'd you think? What'd you feel?
This was not my first time watching this, but it was fun. We made a night of it. We rented the movie and we sat there, me and my wife, and watched it, and we laughed and we had fun, and it's a good time. This movie's a good time. Hitchcock's a cheeky bugger. There's some subtle like commentary and shit hidden in there as well, which just makes this fun to watch and kind of timeless to watch because all of it's still relevant.
Right.
Humanity notoriously doesn't fix itself, so everything that was relevant then is still pretty much still relevant now. Totally. So it's definitely a fun watch. It's not like it doesn't suffer from aged dialogue. It doesn't suffer from aged like shots, or you don't get the feeling you're watching an old movie. And the production work is top notch. Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'd like to put its IMDb rating up to 8.6.
Wow.
Nice.
Glowing endorsement. Yeah. John?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is, and I'm sure we'll kind of break these things down when we start chatting, but just from the premise, that the production design is going to be a huge piece of it. And of course, all his movies, he started in production design. So, the man thinks about that in all of the movies. But I think the nature of this film, I think the reason this one stands above the others for me, is my favorite Hitchcock film, is because of the physical limitation of your protagonist and this almost like single location vibe.
Yeah.
The two most important elements in the movie are the world outside his window that is a single world. Like he's kind of just, there's different characters in that world and these different apartments that he's watching. But it kind of forces you into a subjective experience of his, where I feel like a lot of times Hitchcock very successfully ends up taking you through like these suspenseful, very expressionistic like plots that a lot of his characters are in, and these kind of thrillery suspense things that he's so famous for. This one almost feels like a character piece that Hitchcock just, like stumbled into. There's still awesome camera moves, and there's still, really great visual, filmmaking techniques. I feel like it feels like a Hitchcock film, but unlike a lot of his other movies, this one feels the closest to a character study. I think it says something that the murder doesn't occur until like the murder. You're not even sure it's a murder yet. That it doesn't really occur until about 40 minutes in. It mostly up until that point is developing his character, his backstory, his relationship with Grace Kelly. I was very aware of that when I was watching it this time. The inciting
making
incident,
you a voyeur.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The inciting incident is not the murder. The inciting incident is him telling. There are two scenes, and we could maybe disagree about where it actually is, but is it when his nurse comes in and you finally realize that he doesn't want to get married to this woman? Or is it when Grace Kelly appears and you realize the relationship is actually what incites him, more than the actual murder. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's probably different ways to look at that, but that was, I was very aware of that this time. You think you're going to see the murder pretty soon, and then all that stuff is going to be in the background. But I thought it was so effective and so beautiful that you end up caring more about what's happening in his apartment than outside. And I think that's the genius of this movie. The relationships and the things and the way they're talking to each other in his apartment is the best part about it.
His nurse is a fucking legend.
She was great. She was great. And Grace Kelly is perfection in this. She's so, we'll talk about her, of course. Jimmy Stewart doesn't let you down. You believe exactly who he is. That fucking move around the room, a Zemeckis kind of style opening, just showing you all these pictures that he's taken. You just know who he is. And anyone who's lived in New York, this does exist in New York. This kind of idea of the voyeurism that is totally accepted. Like somebody who doesn't live in New York might be like, why don't these people lower their windows? It's just, you just get used to it. Just being seen and seeing other people. You're all just sharing such a small space. It's fucking brilliant. What do you think, Jeff?
Being heard. Yeah, I mean, of course it's brilliant. I actually, in college, I read the short story, and I still have it, and I really wanted to rewatch it. We read the short story and then watched the movie. I did a literary film adaptation class, which is great. And I remember, and I think it was actually, the original name was called It Must Be Murder, or It Ought to Be Murder, or something. It had a very, it had one of those names that was kind of like connotations. Although I really love the idea of Rear Window. It sounds so dramatic, but it's just fucking window that faces to the rear, but it just feels dark and ominous, and it's such a good title. Honestly, I think the writing is the best part of this movie, and I credit the director, because obviously it's a visual story. Those sweeping opening shots with all of the characters, it's so enticing. You just fall in love with all these characters. I don't know if it's realistic for people to put a mattress on the fire escape and sleep in, but I'm sure it happens.
Oh, hell yeah.
That ballet dancer just wearing nothing, dancing around. I mean, hell yeah, that, I'm sure that definitely happens. And of course, they put a lot of attention on it.
I was doing that
this morning. And they did a good job of having James Stewart, obviously watch it because it's interesting, but she's also the room next door to where it happens. So there's a couple good scenes with that. But the writing, I mean, that Grace Kelly scene is a long scene. You just don't get scenes like that anymore, which I guess is a running theme for me, is they don't do this like this anymore. But it's not just the look of the film and the colors and just the shadows and all that kind of brilliant stuff they do. It's that, how do you really have these 15-minute scenes where you can swipe and swipe back in and you're in the same place, but just a little bit farther and going about? I don't know. It was so enticing. Every single scene with the lady that comes in to help him, it's I think that, and there's not a single line wasted where it's heightened, it's elevated language, but it also just seems so conversational, so that it's not just a bunch of people talking about nothing. I just think it's so brilliant. I think
do you agree with me though that it's almost like, I'm not saying it's literally in the background, but it's almost like the murder is a catalyst for their love story. The opening thesis is that this woman is too perfect and she'll never be able to actually live with me. My life and her life do not jive.
Right.
And it was almost Linklater-y the way they would discuss their inadequacies. Mm-hmm. I loved that argument when she's on the chase and we kind of cut into the scene kind of late, and he's clearly been talking to her about how, come on, you got to live out of a single suitcase. You eat food that you don't even want to look at the animal that was killed to make the food. And the way they're just kind of discussing, their inadequacies and their possible imperfections and incompatibilities. I thought that was just so, I loved how pedestrian that was. I loved how,
all the while,
how domestic it was.
The mystery that's springing up is giving them the one thing they actually have in common.
And I don't want to jump to it too soon, but when she comes back in after, it's not after the shovel moment, it's before that, when she comes in before they, her and the nurse decide to go dig up something, and she's coming in hot because she has an opinion on something, and it cuts to that close-up of James Stewart, and he finally sees that maybe this could work. She's in it with me. I mean, it's just, I don't know. This is a relationship movie, and I don't think I thought of that when I was younger and I watched it for the first couple times, but it was very, very much that for me this time. I don't know.
It's funny that you got
about. Last time you guys watched this?
It's funny. High school, I think.
When I was in college.
It's funny that, like you mentioned, character study, because all of the surrounding apartments are different aspects of life. So like everyone is experiencing their own little bubble of life, and you can see them, and they're still happening in the background of scenes as well. There's a famous story that he actually was in the main apartment directing them over a microphone, and they all wore flesh-colored earpieces. So he's literally directing the action in each apartment in the background as it's happening.
That's cool.
Stuff like that.
That's cool.
There's a funny story with the mattress when it starts raining. He actually gave them 2 separate sets of directions. Told one to pull it one way and one to put it through the other window. Like one to put it through one window, and told the other guy to put it through the other window. So that whole thing was them fucking about trying to figure out what the hell he actually wanted, and that guy wasn't supposed to fall through the window.
He accidentally fell through a window?
Yes. Well, he fell through the open window, yes.
Inside.
Yeah. And that was it. There was no other take. Done.
I mean, it looked honestly perfect. I actually thought, like, did they choreograph it that she got out of the way or something on the inside while they're putting that mattress in?
No, it was funny. But that's the thing. Like, every little piece, like, you know, the party guests in the musician's apartment, all that sort of stuff was all being directed over earpiece.
That's cool. You got to wonder how they did that, you know, and was all the sound must have been put in after, right? Like, obviously there were some lines where people didn't move their mouths. So there's always going to be stuff in the fall. There's going to be stuff where you see the seams a little bit, but I mean, it was just so well done. I just think it's such a good story. It's just such a good story, but you're right, John. I guess the story that really popped this time was definitely with Grace Kelly, but also with this caretaker. So those relationships in the apartment. And I actually love the sort of early thesis too for one of the supporting characters, which is like, everybody, you know, what people ought to do is get out of their house and look in, as opposed to stay in their house looking out. I don't know. I felt I didn't think about the fact that the whole thing was shot from this apartment out. I didn't think about the fact that he looked creepy as fuck, even though they let you on early. He looks like a peeping Tom, which is also in the short story. This whole idea of like, I'm not a peeping Tom, I swear.
Yeah.
And not being seen, even though he's obviously very well lit to us. It just didn't, not inconsequential, but it didn't seem as consequential. Like, oh, is he going to be seen? You know, those kinds of little
that simple
things.
device is one of the best tension builders in the story, because you're literally waiting for someone to make direct eye contact with him when he's looking.
I'm waiting for
like
someone to look down the pipe.
You're waiting for someone to notice and waiting, and it's like, is it now? Is it now? And it builds, so when someone finally does notice, it's a moment. It affects you more because you've been waiting for it for an hour.
I was waiting for like the conversation where they basically start talking like, I know you know, I know you're watching. Like, I was waiting for something like that.
You know that I know that you know.
Okay, friends.
I also really like that. How to say it? The world of that block. What do you call this? Like, I've never actually like found a good name for it, but like it's all like the backyard kind of spaces, these shared communal spaces behind apartment buildings inside an interior block.
It's called a murder scene.
Like that courtyardy area. I love that there was a reality of the all these neighbors affecting each other too. So it wasn't just him watching them and then him being affected by these people. They all either literally interacted directly or indirectly, or sometimes a really obvious example that I thought was earned and really lovely. Mrs. Lonely Hearts on the first floor, who's this very sad woman who clearly wants to be in a relationship and kind of pantomimes having someone over for dinner at the beginning. She's called Mrs. Lonely Hearts, and toward the end of the movie, you think she's going to kill herself because she has this terrible like sexual assault interaction with the man she brings home. And this is a side story. It's just a tiny little thing we're watching. And the thing that saves her life is a song that the musician has been working on. It's just so beautiful that it kind of distracts her and she kind of gets caught up in it. And there's this lovely little payoff at the end where you don't know what they're saying, but she's kind of up in his apartment and he says, I hope it's going to be a hit. And she just like sits there and listens to it.
They set that up so well as well.
Wonderful ways.
Because like earlier on with the musician, when he's got like 20 people in his one room apartment all around a piano, but he's standing separately looking out the window completely alone. So they set that stuff up as well. Nice. And then of course that brings us round to, let's talk about sound for a minute. Because fucking hell.
I don't know, the Oscars didn't think they did a good job with sound.
But yeah, well, the Oscars are fucking wrong, man. They literally from the opening from the moment the opening credits finished, that's the last like non-ambient sound you hear in the film until the end.
All of Franz Waxman's, this is one of the greatest composers of classic cinema of all time. And continue.
Yeah, it's literally the only sound you hear is from the environment. It's from the apartments. It's from the street. It's like just general city noise sometimes, but specifically when stuff's going on in the apartments, that's your soundtrack. That's what you hear. You hear what he hears, and it's such a minimalist thing, and it just makes it really, really good to pull you in to his environment when he's looking.
Yeah.
And I wish they had the technology at the time to do it in like surround or something, because that would have been the icing on the fucking cake. But they did it so well with the mono limitation.
And don't you think you could not be more right. And all the music you hear comes from a single pianist.
Yeah.
And, the guy we've been talking about. And it's all Waxman's composition to the movie. So like the idea, I was fascinated by the idea of him like composing through diegetic sound.
Yeah.
Like that's interesting. Yeah. That's really cool. Obviously, like we've already sort of touched on it, but like these little conversations that are isolated, the timing and staging and choreography of actors alive in their apartments, like a lot of these things sound obvious. That must have been really, really difficult to design and construct to make it feel believable, because a lot of it was done in panning camera. So you needed to see these things happen in a sweep, and they couldn't see each other. So like him directing them silently, like through microphones or whatever.
Yeah,
that's super effective.
Yeah. I've designed one of those. I've designed one of those for a play before, and not kidding, they're fun to do. Like that whole soundtrack. I did one for an Australian play called The Club, and it was entirely ambient. So like basically there was a pub below this thing, but there was a meeting about a sports club, and everything that happened downstairs, there were little storylines that filtered through the audio and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's cool.
Like, so I'm sitting there just appreciating this at that level, and he nailed it. Fucking nailed it.
He fucking nailed it, dude. And it made me very aware, which will bring us around back into his apartment, like the intimacy of whatever, him and his nurse, him and Grace Kelly. There was almost this like weird meta thing that I think you're aware of when you're watching this movie throughout, that like surely they see him too, like there's and we're watching him, like this meta intimacy that we have access to seeing him kiss or have like whatever conversations get rubbed down by this woman who comes into his house once a day and takes his shirt off and rubs
no
it
mosquitoes
down.
Either. Just leave those windows wide open. There's no mosquitoes,
guys. How fucking cool and effective is Grace Kelly's intro shot?
Oh, dude.
The close-up coming out of focus into focus, out of darkness into light, right in his face. Like, oh my God.
Well, then they tease the
I just thought the focus puller fucked up.
Oh, Dave. You think
so? He was too busy watching her.
Yeah.
He was like, oh my God.
Like, holy shit.
No, it was probably back in the day where the cinematographer's doing fucking everything. It's like, you push the camera. Yeah, I'm going to do this as well. Sure. Yeah.
I mean... They set it up later, like, oh, the hallucinations will stop. So they kind of set it up like it might be, an image or something in his head. Not the what is her? She's a friend. Who is the caretaker? Did I miss that early on?
She's the insurance nurse.
Insurance nurse. She was assigned by the insurance company to.
But there's so much more. There's so much more than that. But anyway, the Grace Kelly stuff, because it was at night. That whole scene was at night.
She makes 4 references to it.
You shut the fuck up.
How good is Grace Kelly in this movie, though?
Yeah,
stunning.
They do it.
There's a couple of times where her reactions are so natural that I wonder, was that improvised?
That and like it's all of it. Like there is also an elephant in the room. Yes, James Stewart is for sure like 20 years older than her, but from the range of her just bantering with him, flirtation, maturely discussing maybe incompatibilities, to their kissing scenes, those close-up, twos where she's just laying with him, kissing him and talking to him. Like every breath that happened in that apartment, I believed that they had that relationship.
Yeah.
Which is a tough sell. Like this rich Park Avenue girl that is just really, really in love with this guy who lives in like a studio apartment. I don't know. It just seemed kind of...
There's some real class.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
don't get me wrong. There are questions like, how did they meet? How did that guy get that piano in there? Like there's a ton of these questions.
Dave, they use cranes to get those expensive pianos in there, or they just bring them in piece by piece.
How is that guy in a 1-room apartment affording a fucking crane to get a piano in that room?
Good question.
That's how they do it, baby.
Good question. Back in the day, you could get work done cheap.
Yeah,
a lot of people needed jobs. Non-union work. That's probably right. And if that piano fell on that person, they were evaporated from the world, and nobody.
No, they just popped up through the piano with like piano keys for teeth.
No, it's not Looney Tunes, guys. But all I'm saying is that there's a maturity to Grace Kelly's performance, even though she's like 24, 25. Went through the studio system, of course. Had been in a bunch of movies, of course. But the way that they're talking about love, when he's saying he doesn't want to marry her, and she walks away, and she takes on the melancholy of it, but is kind of playing at it too in a way that's like playful. I don't know. It's because it's obviously like there's a sadness to it. That's why I was like, is this a hallucination? You know, I got by that line.
That's
it was
the thing.
So romantic. It was so wonderful, even though he was essentially saying we can't be together.
She's not. That's the thing. She's not a one-dimensional character. There's a little like there's personality under there, which, you know, it's not just I'm going to be dramatic and leave, or I'm the love interest and I just.
Well, when some things are really simple like that,
that whole character had a complete mind of her own, which you don't often see in 50s movies.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I just couldn't believe how elevated her performance was, considering how simple this stuff was that they were talking about.
And lots of, there's also within their relationship, the deconstruction of relationships and the psychology, and this is in the time when like Freud and therapy was kind of on the rise. There was so much good commentary on.
Yeah.
How about Stella's line, the nurse's line? Intelligence. Nothing has caused the human race so much trouble as intelligence.
And
there's some laugh out loud lines in this.
You know what that reminds me of is conscience thus has made cowards of us all. Get your Shakespeare references up, people. Hell yeah.
I love that the nurse is chastising him for being a peeping Tom, but having a look herself.
Oh, of course.
It's like they've normalized this behavior in like the first 5 minutes.
Wives don't nag anymore. They discuss. It's so good. There's so many good lines.
When two people love each other, they come together. Wham! Like two taxis on Broadway. Yeah. Like,
she'll wind up fat, alcoholic, and miserable. I mean, come on, to the dancer. It's just, there's so many good things. What's another good watch? Oh, Grace Kelly talking about the ballet dancer that has like obviously the older men kind of around that one night. And Grace Kelly goes, I'd say she's doing a woman's hardest job, juggling wolves.
Juggling wolves. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Come on.
I do love like they're also like I had this thought. It was like they call him the master of suspense. I'm like, he's also the master of irony, because when the dog, they find the dog in the courtyard,
the Silence of the Lambs dog,
and then the woman is having like a meltdown on the balcony, and she's screaming about neighbors are supposed to care about each other and talk to each other, and she's screaming it from directly above the murder apartment.
Yeah.
It's like there's a blacked out apartment where someone's possibly been murdered right underneath her.
Well, and the one time that everybody all looks in at the same time.
Yeah.
And how about, and I think people went in, this might not even be worth talking about, but
say it anyway.
You go see a Hitchcock movie and you think you're going to see these suspense moments. Obviously super effective, seeing burning embers in his dark apartment. There were moments like that where you're going to feel it. But when he comes to his apartment, the ring, the silent end of the line, hang up, and James realize, oh shit. James deciding to pull back and into the darkness. And when Thirlwall makes his way into his apartment, turns out the light in the hallway when he finally enters. I mean, you feel it, dude. The suspense is fucking there.
Yeah. From that look.
Suspense.
It's from the look.
For sure.
Straight away.
Out of that suspense came this like kind of desperate tone from Thirlwall where he's like, what do you want? He's just standing there.
Yeah.
Before he decides to go over there, I guess I'm going to have to kill you. But before that, he really is just like, what do you want from me? I don't have any money. Like, why are you messing with me? I can't give you anything.
Yeah.
And his answer, in the way that, Dave, come at me. The way they filmed, like the language shifted completely when he started fighting with him. These crazy, like Dutch subjective, like moving shots to try to get him on the bed, on the side of the bed, out the window. Like, it was so effective.
Okay,
like,
that is my one little gripe with this film. is just
fall.
No, the amount of sped up footage that's just quickly edited.
Yeah, there was a couple. Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah. Was that part of it? You didn't like the fight scene?
No, I like the fight scene, but like suddenly someone's running at high speed out a door and someone's running at high speed past a window. And
it did look like old silent movies.
It was obviously very sped up. And it pulled me right out of the moment. I was like, you didn't need that.
It was weird how sped up that footage was. They were flailing their limbs.
I don't know,
so fast.
Which footage are you talking about? The fight scene?
No, it's like
it's
like right
the other
after.
people. Like some of the other people running. The footage was sped up.
The cops when they're coming across the courtyard.
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and then other people out of their apartments and stuff.
Unless my internet was screwy and it was just doing what your Zoom does.
100%.
Oh.
Yeah, it was when he started chatting. When the detective friend was on the other side, everybody running. People ran out of like the first floor into like that patio kind of area, and everybody was running. Very strange.
Like literally one floor. That's it. That was, and it drew me out for a second, and then we got back into the action. But
it really stands out in a masterpiece, though.
It does. I'm afraid.
But it's the only flaw. No, that's funny.
I love the time.
Yeah, I mean, coming full circle, do you guys agree that like? Not that the others are not fucking brilliant, but most of his movies are plot, and the way he manipulates plot to create suspense is what you go and buy a Hitchcock ticket for, is why you press play on for a rewatch or something. And this one is the opposite of that for me.
I think there's still suspense.
Is this guy just discussing his ideas with people in his apartment?
Yeah.
It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of them just
like, this should have been boring as shit. It's not.
It should have been.
It's not.
How about what we have trouble getting away with nowadays? Did all the dissolves to black for passages of time frustrate you at all, or did it work?
Didn't even notice
It's just
them.
something that we've kind of lost with language.
Did not even notice them.
I would say I noticed them, but it didn't bother me. There are a lot of swipes, a lot of like fade outs. Yeah,
a lot of fades because we had to pass time because you're stuck with him. So we had to like pass his time. We couldn't like go to another world or another B story.
And Angela loves the 1 week time limit that they give, which is just, who knows if they even really needed it, but it's good. And then obviously the apartment at the end of the month always going to leave.
Well, that makes that last shot funny because he's so close to getting out of it.
That's true.
It's just a little in joke they set up at the beginning of the film, and it pays off at the end.
He loves that. He loves that ending with. I think this is probably the most effective of his. Like, wasn't that fun? Kind of endings. Yeah. He does that sometimes, and it's like, oh, come on, it was so much. It was so serious up until then.
Yeah, they could have done some more with
this one. I was waiting for it.
They could have done. I mean, he did a good job with the elements. So, like, you see the itch. Like, I got itchy thinking about him trying to itch under his cast.
Yeah.
And then with the other people, the rain. You definitely like. It was very lived in as an audience member. I do think he could have done more with the heat. I think like we got the idea that it was hot, but not. It wasn't like Do the Right Thing, where you like every single person was sweating. Like I could have used even more heat because the windows were fucking wide open. Where are those goddamn mosquitoes? Where are they? Where are those mosquitoes?
I mean, I was just happy when he
back then, dude.
I was just happy when he fell that he didn't throw everyone off, run up and throw himself out the window a second time.
Oh, come on.
Can we talk about 10 Can we talk about Grace Kelly in a dress and heels with the shovel, climbing up that wooden like gate or the brick gate, going over the metal fence, climbing up the fire escape, breaking into an apartment.
I'm like, Lisa went rogue. Shit.
Yeah. Backwards in high heels,
At least they just acknowledged too, like how like striking she is when his detective friend meets her and he's like, he just can't even talk.
Yeah.
When he takes the drink from her.
What are they? Oh, when they were talking about the bail.
Characters, that guy.
When they were talking about bail, they're like, I only have 100. How much is it going to be? 250? And it's like, don't worry. I think once the cops get an eye on her, they'll help bail her out. It's like they'll cover the rest.
I love that he knew how much each crime was like bail for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, what
also,
is your
250
past,
back then? That's a lot. What's bail going to be? 250. 250. Yeah. I feel like 250 is a good amount for now.
This was, I know, could you imagine what that would be now? Do you feel like, I thought another interesting thing was just, we've kind of already said it, but the B story, whether or not you're saying it's A or B, they all happen in the same place. I thought that was really interesting. Like, obviously we did not cut away to anything that was happening outside of his apartment, or rather outside of his view. So whether that was in the apartment or what he could see, but there were multiple stories happening. It was, that love story and the murder. And I just thought that was, God, I just thought that was so effective. I think a lot of times with single location films, it's just a single A story, but this was really creative.
Not to mention the individual threads going in the windows behind you while the scenes are happening, as well.
Guys, yes, Dave. Whose apartment did you want to go hang out in? Did you want to go have dinner with anybody?
I kind of wanted to hang with the musicians.
Smoke a cigarette
definitely the musicians. I want to go to that party.
That musicians party that looked fantastic when they were singing Mona Lisa. Everybody was having a good time.
It's funny. Did you
maybe miss New York, you guys? I'm not gonna lie. This movie, we watch movies all the time. A lot of them are set in the big cities. This one really made me miss New York City.
Let's just quickly talk about that actual courtyard for a second, because they built that whole thing. That was all constructed, including the street behind it. But they had to pull the floor out of the studio to be able to accommodate it. So they pulled the floor out.
God Almighty.
His apartment is actually the ground floor. That was ground level.
What?
All the stuff below it was the unused basement of the studio that they pulled the floor out and built down. And then in the rig above, because they didn't have ARRI sky panels and all the shit we've got these days, there was about 1,000 lights, so that they could literally change time of day in about 45 minutes by doing a quick refocus and stuff like that. But apparently at one point the lights tripped the breaker and blacked out the whole studio and set off the heat was so much that it actually set off the sprinklers.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine how hot?
Oh, it was ridiculously hot. Some of the cast are they weren't acting. It was hot as fuck in there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I could have used even more of that. I could have used more sweating.
Now we haven't talked about him specifically, but I think Jimmy Stewart is, one of the greatest of all time. I loved him in this. I love him so much in this. He's charming. You believe things as small as my leg itches and I can't, little tiny things like that, which are important. You believe the way he did not over dramatize the entire suspicion of the murder. Like every time he would be talking, he would have the same conversation with multiple characters. And it always just felt like he was just talking to them about it. It never felt like he was going crazy. This could have easily been a movie about obsession. And it didn't really turn into that. It is because of him. I don't know. I'm sure Hitchcock and him talked about it, but I don't know. I just believed
not really
every line out of his mouth.
Hitchcock notoriously doesn't talk to his actors.
That's true.
Apparently,
I've often wondered though if
apparently if he doesn't like the scene, he gets a look on his face like he's going to throw up.
And I'm sure that's true, but I often wondered if he doesn't direct actors ever, but I often wonder if he chit chats with them before, which is common, so that he doesn't have to talk to them at all.
Well, apparently he famously said one of the notes he got was the scene is tired. That was the note. Yeah, the scene is tired.
That's a good note. I know what to do with that. I feel like I feel like Jimmy was like, "Oh, I gotcha. Let's do it again."
Yep.
Fucking fantastic though. I just thought, I don't know. I thought it was great. I love this movie. I'm glad we watched it. I think there are some other crazy good movies like Seven Samurai and La Ventura. There's some crazy other iconic best of movies of this year, but I'm glad we picked this one. I hope everybody goes to rewatch it or watches it for the first time. This is a masterpiece.
Yeah, this is definitely one you should watch. And also,
everybody gets it. Get your Criterion subs up, guys.
Or just rent it. Give them some money. This one deserves it.
Give the Criterion some money.
Paramount does need some help.
It's not a Paramount Plus though.
No, yeah, but if they give them money, maybe they'll be able to afford fucking HD for all of us.
All right, friends. Well, that has been another amazing segment in our random year generator from 1954. So next week we're gonna have a new year. So this is how it's gonna work. We're gonna spin the wheel now, do our what you've been watching, and then at the very end of this episode, we're gonna come back and tell you what we're going to be doing next week, and we hope you watch along with us. So, Dave, why don't we spin before we get into what you've been watching? Let's go.
Spinning that wheel.
Come. All right. It's in the 1900s. 1970s.
Oh.
1970.
Wow.
That's going to be an interesting year.
Whoa. 197.
Have we ever been there?
I was just thinking that. Did we ever do that last time?
I don't think so.
I don't think we've done it. I'm excited.
All right. So again, we're not going to sit here and just Wikipedia this. We're going to Google search this. We are going to do what you've been watching. We're going to take a quick pause and come back and let you know at the very end what we're going to be doing next week. Dave, what are you watching? Anything? Did you get to anything this week?
The one thing I made time to watch. I looked up a lot of stuff that was influenced by the Rear Window, and I actually watched a film called The Watcher. And it basically, it's an American actress, and her Romanian boyfriend. They moved to Romania and
this is an American film, or is this?
No, I think it's an international film. But basically, she doesn't speak the language, and there's a serial killer running around killing women in the city, and there's a guy watching her from the apartment across the street, like just standing there looking through the window. And that's basically the whole premise. But they set up her. It's very much like the same premise as the Rear Window, except that her boundary is the language, because she can't effectively tell people what's going on and stuff. And there's some really good tension builds in it. I'm not sure I bought the ending 100%, but it's still pretty fucking good. It takes Rear Window and plays with the themes a lot. It's called The Watcher.
Wow, nice, dude. That's a good one.
Okay,
Never heard of that.
No shit.
I hadn't heard of it either. I found it on a whim and sat there and watched it, and yeah, creepy as fuck, some sequences.
No shit.
Sweet.
John?
I did not watch anything this week. I was directing all week and didn't have time to do shit.
Did you finish your project?
We did, man.
Nice.
We wrapped. It was crazy. It was gigantic. And then I had some screenings the past couple of nights. Anyway, so I didn't get to watch anything other than just trying to get
what about these screenings?
The nightmares of stress streams.
You watched a lot of dailies.
Dailies and fucking anxiety dreams. So yeah, what'd you watch?
Well, watch Saltburn, and I'm going to finish May December very soon. It's pretty fun. It really feels like a soap opera on purpose. This is Todd Haynes.
Like a melodrama, like a
yeah. With of course Natalie Portman playing Julianne Moore's character in a movie. Natalie Portman's like a famous movie star, and Julianne Moore's character married and had a child with a 7th grade student. She went to jail, served her time, came out, and then they raised their kid together. So Natalie Portman's paying her and is staying with them for the week to try to get to know her a little bit before she plays her. So that's really fun. And I was gonna watch a new movie because of all of this, and all of a sudden on Netflix it was leaving Netflix soon, and it had Wind River, which is a Ty Sheridan movie that I'd never seen, and I was like, you know what? I don't know why something is pulling me towards this movie, so I just pushed play. And I really enjoyed it.
I like that movie so much. Yeah, nobody liked that. I feel like
it is so my kind of movie. It's so my kind of movie. Why don't people like it?
I don't know. Murder mystery, character, slow but entertaining. I don't know. I don't get it. I loved it.
It's Jeremy Renner, of course.
That's why I don't like it.
I love Jeremy Renner.
Everybody loves Jeremy now.
And Wind River is a Native American reservation in Montana. And this is Tyler Sheridan, who very famously did Yellowstone and all the spin-offs and owns his own ranch. So in Montana. Actually, wait, sorry, Wind River might not be in Montana. It might be in a different state. Sorry. But anyway, it's very cold, and the body happens in the freezing cold, and the FBI can barely get there, and there's a winter storm coming on this Native American reservation. It's amazing, and it's leaving Netflix soon. So give it a watch. It's fucking great. I loved it.
Nice.
All right. Yeah. Let's take a quick time out, my friends, and then we will give the people our movie for next year. Our movie for next week. The drinks are real. See you in a second, film fans.
And we're back.
We are back. And we have decided on a film from the year 1970 to highlight next year. And I bet you it's not one anybody at home was guessing. Is it Patton? Is it Love Story? Is it MASH? Is it Five Easy Pieces? Nope. We are going...
None of those things.
We are going to Europe, people. John, what are we watching?
We are watching Bernardo Bertolucci's The Conformist.
They mentioned Bertolucci in the song La Vie Bohème in the movie Rent. Oh, the musical Rent. In Rent.
You fucking nerd.
It's basically their version of We Didn't Start the Fire, but for musicals. And Bertolucci's
None of us have seen this, so we're really excited, film fans. If you want to watch the movies from the 70s and this bitch, you should watch it because it's going to be fresh takes. I'm really excited. I don't think that's ever happened on our show, other than the new movies. I don't think we've ever done anything that's like from the past, and at least one of us hasn't
we're going
seen
in cold.
Maybe Who's Afraid of Baby Jane, or What's the Matter with Baby Jane? Maybe like movies like that. The Orphans.
Where in the World is Baby Jane?
There were a couple. Yeah.
Did I tell you guys that
Fucking Baby Jane.
I found out recently? Did I tell you I found out recently that a house around the corner from me is the exterior of their house?
What? In the movie?
And I didn't realize it until I was like, oh my God, yeah, that totally is it. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Sweet Baby Jane or whatever.
I'm trying to look up if Bertolucci... Nasser is in the song We Didn't Start the Fire.
Fucking Nasser again. Just go to Mars,
Nasser,
dude.
but that's the 50s. He goes in order. So Ben-Hur's in the 60s. Does he do the 70s too? 70s here. British Beatlemania. No, that's the 60s. Does he get to... Here it is. No Bertolucci. Bertolucci does not make it until We Didn't Start the Fire. Fuck, I really thought he did.
If anyone wants to watch, it's available to rent on Apple and iTunes and Amazon Prime and all that shit, but it is also available on Canopy.
Whatever the fuck that is.
Lesser known app. It's kind of like Criterion.
All right.
Like choice movies.
All right. Another good episode, my friends. Thank you so much, film fans. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for drinking along with us. And we will see you next week when we talk about 1970 and The Conformist.
Yeah, you got it right.